In 2005, there was a secret project that you've never heard of, known only as Platinum. The engineers were forbidden from testing their machine on public property, but at 11 p.m. one night, they loaded it up into a truck, drove 2 hours from their manufacturing plant to test it out on the highway, purposely stamped with fake names and surrounded by competitors' bikes, so people driving by could not see what the actual secret project was. Except they made one error, and that was with the truck that they drove to the place. That was badged with Victory. So you're telling me, through all this stuff, a big company like this, they couldn't have borrowed someone's truck that didn't have their own badge on it? I know what you're thinking. And this is not the latest franchise that Shia LaBeouf's ruined. This is not some secret James Bond movie. This is much more important, much more interesting. This is the Victory Vision. Test driving everything and anything with two wheels to help you find your next bike. I'm Sean Kerr, and this is SRK Cycles. Flashback to Sturgis 2001, where the men are all wearing leather and the women aren't wearing much. That's right? That's what happens to Sturgis? Never been there, but that's probably what happens. Just 4 years after Victory debuted their first bike, the V92, Victory teased the community by putting a concept bike in one of their showrooms in Sturgis. They called this bike the Victory Vistion Vision. Now, if you look at the picture, it looks very, very, very similar to the current Indian Roadmaster. Coincidence? I don't think so. Meanwhile, Mark Blackwell, the GM at Victory, wanted to bring motorcycles into the 21st century by giving the consumer the most technically sophisticated motorcycle they have ever seen. But Victory was just a motorcycle company, so they had to bring in the big guns. That's where Vistion steps in. So while Victory Motorcycles is trying to buy motorcycles for people to ride and enjoy, Vistion is over here trying to build the Starship Enterprise. Currently, Vistion is working on things like autonomous driving cars and augmented reality heads-up displays. Finally, it's going to be easier for millennials to play Pokemon Go while they're driving their Mercedes-Benz. The new Victory Vistion Vision promised us a lot of super awesome stuff, including turn-by-turn navigation, a fingerprint identification system for security and for starting the engine, as well as to secure the storage compartments, the saddlebags, and the tour pack. So now when someone tries to steal your bike or has to steal your bike, they got to cut your fingers off. Fiber optic remote lights, HID headlights, LED lighting, heated seats, and heated grips. Now, I know some of this stuff doesn't sound very impressive today, 18 years later, but back in those days, cell phones looked like this, cars looked like this, computers looked like this, dinosaurs still roamed the earth, and your girlfriend probably dressed a little bit like this. And then Vistion also designed the engine control module and the engine performance and the emissions and the boring. Who cares about that stuff? Let's go back to the top secret stuff. Flash forward to 2005 when they decided to test Project Platinum. Remember from back earlier in the video? In 2005, there was a secret project that you've never heard of, known only as Platinum. When this machine roared to life the first night secretly on I-90 in southern Minnesota, it was a Frankenstein of parts and branded as a Hyundai, a Nissan, and also with accent parts, just to mess with people or to get Nissan and Hyundai guys super pumped. The riders surrounding the group weren't allowed to wear any Victory gear, and they were under strict instructions to ride at certain angles so that cars passing by were not able to see the Victory Vision. Which, if you've ever seen the Victory Vision, it is a humongous bike. How do you really block that from people from seeing it? Although Victory dropped the name Vistion in the name of the bike, the Vision was still a really big deal. It was a huge financial gamble for Victory, and they spent around $25 million for developing the project. For $25 million, you could purchase at least 50 brand new Harley-Davidsons, something around that. Victory execs had such high hopes for the Vision that they even considered creating a separate dealer agreement just for the Vision to stake its claim as a luxury brand, where not all Victory dealers would be able to sell the Vision. One of the first Victories put together was also put together by a redhead. Not only was this a giant technological step for Victory and for the motorcycle industry, this is also a huge step for redheads, or as they prefer to be called, gingers. Not only does he have a job, but he's helping real people with real souls put together a Victory Vision. Despite all the hype and under all the secrecy, Victory took 2 more years to release the Vision, with the final product being a luxury cruiser that most would describe as, "That thing is huge, and how did a motorcycle have a baby with the Nike swoosh logo?" While Vision dropped the Vistia name, it came with 3 models: the 8-ball, the Tour, which has a Tour pack, the 8-ball did not have the Tour pack, and the Ice Dragon version. I'm serious, we've had an Ice Dragon bike, it was amazing. One of the best bikes we've ever had. Later we found out that it is actually not a version made from Victory, but made from some guy who had some crazy idea, probably smoking a lot of pot. But did they really accomplish what they set out to do? The first Victory Vision was available to consumers in 2007. And like most concept vehicles, they dropped all the super, really cool, interesting stuff that we all wanted. The thumbprint security system, the retina scan, the massaging floorboards, video phone call system. But what was left was one of the greatest touring bikes ever made and created a new segment of the market that nobody else was filling. The luxury touring market consists of the Harley-Davidson Ultra Limited, the BMW K1200 LT, and the Honda Goldwing. While this had all the bells and whistles of the BMW and the Goldwing, the ergonomics were more laid back like the Harley-Davidson, but even bigger, which is why often this is a choice for tall riders. The first time you get on one of these road giants, it's a little intimidating. There's no way around it. This bike is huge. You feel like you're sitting pretty far back and the handlebars come to you, similar to driving like a Honda Rune or like driving a Star Wars speeder. But the Vision actually weighs in a little bit less than the Goldwing and feels perfect while riding. The Freedom 50-degree V-twin 106 cubic inch made 96 horsepower and was fitted with a 6-speed transmission. It performed well in the straight lines, the canyons, and was insanely comfortable on the highway. I spent a lot of time riding the Vision, and at first I have to admit I did not like the way it looked until I rode it. And then I fell in love with it, and it's got a special spot in my heart for the Victory Vision. The problem is that the Victory Vision never sold enough to recoup Polaris's huge investment. In 2017, Victory announced to the world that they will be halting production of the Victory line and will be focusing on their Indian line, which they acquired a couple years prior. From 2007 to 2017, they made the Vision. Maybe the bike was ahead of its time, maybe it came out just in time to shake things up in the motorcycle industry, just like Floam did.
Holding, shaping, super transforming, fun you can feel.
But in my mind and in the hearts of many, the Vision will always be one of the greatest touring bikes to ever cruise the highway. And that's the Victory Vision and everything about it. We'll see you guys next week.